Okay, you're live streaming.
Good evening, welcome back. 3.01, Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence for Eileen Zipes, a retired teacher. She worked for the district from 9/1/80 to 7/1/99. Please stand and remain standing. I pledge allegiance to
Allegiance
the
to the flag
flag
of the United States of America
and to
and
the
to the
republic,
republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all. Thank you. 3.02. I'd like to welcome Mr. Matt Metzger and Dr. Hooley will give the DC BOCES budget presentation. Mr. Metzger, I believe it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And Dr. Bomp and members of the Board of Trustees of Wappingers, thank you very much for letting us present this 21-22 administrative budget. We're also going to include the capital and rental portion in this presentation tonight. I always like to start with a brief financial structure explanation of the BOCES. There are really three main categories when we look at our services. We have the program and services piece. This is what you most often associate BOCES with. This is special education, our alternative high school, career and technical institute, as well as learning technology, the common things that people refer to BOCES for. We also have the capital and rental portion, which is the money that we need to collect to pay rent. So that would be for currently right now our rental of the alternative high school at the Beta site. It is also money needed to pay districts. We do have certain districts that host in-district BOCES class. And then this capital piece refers to the yearly amount that we collect from the component districts. That is really for, to maintain our infrastructure, to do the upkeep for the buildings. And then finally, the administrative piece, which really is the superintendent, the Board of Education, personnel, the business office. This is the portion that, we will present that the components vote on. This legally cannot change during the year. So what gets voted on, approved, is what we're limited with. With the programs and services, depending on enrollment, those budgets can go up and down during the year, but the administrative piece is really just locked into what legally is approved. I'd like to remind everybody that BOCES doesn't really carry an unreserved fund balance, that at the end of each year, we take the revenue, which is the money we collect from the school districts and other non-component school districts. We take away our expenditures and we're left with a surplus, and that surplus is returned to the districts. And also just like to mention that BOCES aid is certainly an incentive for component districts and other districts to use us, because there is a return on their investment. This BOCES aid does not pertain to the special ed coast. That's high cost aid, but a lot of the programs and coasters that we have do generate BOCES aid. I'd like to just present this pie chart. Is really just our entire budget. And you can see at the bottom right is, 36% of it is special ed. And I think it's helpful when we look at the slivers at the top. Those are the portion of our budgets that pertain to the administrative. And for this presentation, I've cut the administration into two pieces. There's non-retiree health insurance, which are all those things that I mentioned before, personnel, Board of Education, superintendent. But then there's also the retiree health portion of it. And that's where, when we need to account for retiree health insurance, is in the administrative budget. So my example is that if we have a special ed teacher that during their career at BOCES, and while they're working, their health insurance is covered by that COSER and paid for by the tuition and the participation from the districts. But upon that individual's retirement, then those costs come to the administrative portion of the budget. And that's quite a burden on this budget. And our challenges really each year are to provide a cutting edge program that meets the district's needs that we really can do cost effectively. I just mentioned a little bit about the burden that retiree health insurance has on the administrative budget, and it represents really 70% of that budget. This is really a presentation of what the administrative budget and capital look like. So about 3/4 down the page, we're presenting a budget of approximately $7 million, just over. It's actually down 2.3% from the previous year. We continue to find efficiencies where we can, with staff in the administrative building. And then the bottom is going to illustrate really the rental, which is up actually 18%, and the capital, which is down 75%. We recognize that there was an anticipation that we would be in our new building at Soul Point campus for the alternative high school in September. So what we've done is, we've tried to lower that annual capital contribution this year to acknowledge that to the districts. So this, appears to be very, good news in that it's down from the previous year. But I think I need to, explain the allocation of each district, and what is used is the RWADA, which is the resident weighted average daily attendance. And I think that's, that's legally set as a means to, determine each component share of the administrative budget. And I think this is helpful because this shows that the top line is really all our 13 districts combined. I think you can clearly see a trend that it's, declining in total. And the red line at the bottom represents Wappingers, which, for the most part, I think is relatively flat. But when this is used to determine your share, you're obviously picking up a greater share of it. This is the last 5 years of Wappingers. And, we can see that if we go back to 17-18, your share of the administrative budget was approximately 28%. And now it's close to 29%, and all based on the previous slide and your share of the components total RWADA. So when we present your share of the administrative and capital for 21-22, what we see is actually an increase of $38,000 for Wappingers, or a 2.28% increase. Certainly your RWADA up just a little bit last year, about 400. I always like to, present this slide. So this is based on Wappingers 2021 participation with the BOCES. And that is, your book of business really is about 18.5 million. And $1.1 million was returned in surplus. And then there was 3 million that was generated in BOCES aid. And as I mentioned before, that won't be on the special ed piece because that's high cost aid, but this is the other coasters and programs that you participate that generate state aid. And at this point, I will hand it off to Richard so he can talk about your enrollment.
Right. So thank you, Matt. And thanks again to the members of the board for allowing us to come and present our budget tonight. I always like to talk with you about what Wappinger students represent at BOCES. So you see on the slide that there are 51 special and alternative education students, and I'll just break it out a little further. So Beta is our alternative high school, and in that program we have kids who are earning credits independently, but earning also a Regents diploma. We have some students who are there because they are in a high school equivalency program, so they'll take the high school equivalency test and earn high school graduation. And then we have some students there who are in the adolescent day treatment, and these are students with social emotional needs, and those are met on the campus by the social workers from Astor. So I like to explain it that, you know, in some high schools, you go from biology to PE to English class, and that's true of our beta, but also in that course of that day, you meet with your counselor or social worker, and the social workers actually have a caseload, which means that if in the middle of the weekend there is a challenge for that student, that caseworker is on call to provide that family and that student the kind of support they need. And it's a little bit of an unusual alternative high school, and that's why you might say to yourself, well, we have an alternative high school, but ours is a little bit different from the one that you have at Orchard View. Then we have 25 students at Salt Point Center. This is our K-8 program. And although we think of it as a special education program, we do have 5 students in what is an academic behavior and community program. And these are not students with IEPs, but they are students who are working on their capacity with school behavior and working in a community. Otherwise, we have 16 students in the PEACE program. Those are autistic students. We have 2 students in an 811 class. That's 8 students, 1 teacher and 1 aide. And then again, like we had at Beta, we have adolescent day treatment. And these are these students are in a 611, 6 students to 1 teacher to 1 teaching assistant. And then finally, 21 students from Wappingers are in BOCES classes that are placed in districts. And we have 3 school districts that we have classrooms in, and they are Spackenkill, Arlington, and Red Hook. And this year, actually, we have a new program in Ramapo for children, which is in Rhinebeck, and it's an outdoor education program. And I think you have 1 student enrolled in that. So that wraps up the 51 students in our alternative and special education. Then Wappingers has 86 students in our career and tech program. And I'll just run through those quickly for you. You have 15 students in cosmetology, 9 in automobile technology, 9 in culinary arts, 8 in cinematography and film production, 7 in intro to health occupations, 6 in police science, 5 in the construction trades, 5 in nursing assistant, 5 in electrical trades, 4 in small engines, 4 in agricultural production, 3 in computer hardware and technology, 3 in graphic design, 2 in early childhood, and 1 student in welding. So that kind of wraps up the enrollments. Each year, we talk with our component districts and we plan on ways that we can better meet their needs. When it wasn't COVID, we used to go out with our senior staff and meet your senior staff and really talk about what's working and what's not, and we'll get back to that. But I just want you to know in the next school year, we have a couple of programs that we're kind of excited about. The Career Exploration Program at CTI allows students to come and sample 3 vocational programs, and then in their either during that junior year or in their senior year, they can select one of those and move right into, transfer right into that program if it meets their needs or it does what they want it to do. That program is actually open to 10th graders if the school district makes a determination that it is warranted for the needs of that student. Then we have 2 centers, very exciting news for us. We have a Center for Educational Equity and Social Justice and a Center for Sustainability and Climate Education. These came to us because of needs from school districts and even board goals. And they are created with Duchess BOCES and partnerships with different organizations. So the Center for Sustainability and Climate Education is connected to the, I'm forgetting the name again. Connected to the Ecology Center in Rhinebeck. It'll come to me by the end of the presentation. And also the Cloud Institute and several other sustainability programs in the region. And as far as we know, there is not a center for this anywhere else in the state. And as I said before, this came to us because of school boards who actually have sustainability as one of their goals. So we are not only working with professional development, but I think next week there is a conference with keynote speakers. I think it's going to be Zoomed, but it's pretty exciting. And the sustainability and the educational equity and social justice is also working with school districts for equity assessments to look at your systems in your school district to see what we can do to increase access, equity, and diversity. E-rate, Category 2 purchasing. E-rate, you may be aware of, is a way to get back to school districts costs for technology. Historically, it was technology wiring and transmission. So telephone bills and internet lines and things like that. But that has changed slightly. And so now you're able to purchase hardware. And so that's a big change for us. And we handle that for the entire region. And certainly Wappingers is a part of that. And then expanded early college BARD. This is a program where students in their junior and senior years in our high schools are able to take courses using the bus transportation to BOCES to take colleges from BARD professors. And even though this was COVID year, we started this program, and for next year it has doubled. So we're very excited about that. And it's really a great opportunity for our kids to finish their high school credits, but earn credits toward college that are transferable. I will just also add to this that we've had a lot of conversations at the superintendent's table about what remote learning might look like next year. And so we are preparing that if there are still students, if your school district is open and everybody is back to classes and there still are some needs, we're hoping small numbers who want to remain remote for certain reasons, maybe those are medical or some other reason, we may be providing that as a service to the school districts. And if we do it with all 13 school districts, that will reduce the cost for you. So Matt has moved along for me. The key dates for you are April 27th, which is the date that components vote on our budget and on the board members for BOCES board. And May 7th is the final service request due to BOCES. That is when you and your district have selected the programs and services that you are purchasing from BOCES. Matt, did you want to say anything about those two dates?
No, I think you did pretty well with it. I just, the May 7th one is important to us because, that really does show us what your commitment is for next year with the programs, and it really helps us finalize our budget, not just for the admin, but for the entire agency and all the programs.
So, of course, I just remembered the partnerships for the sustainability, and it's the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, as well as the Ashokan Center and the Teacher Center and the Cloud Institute. So it's really kind of a great group of people and a great, very, very well-regarded programs, institutions that are supporting that for our teachers. So here we have the a slide about the capital project. We're very happy to report that spring break was a great time for us. We got all kinds of work done. There were no students on campus. We limited the number of faculty, and so we were able to get a lot of projects done in the building that you might not be able to do otherwise. So that was great. And the most exciting news of all is that today, just today, our board received, accepted, and approved a tender agreement from the performance bond surety, so that beginning on Monday, a new excavator can come on the campus and get caught up and get that work done that was stopped a month or two ago. So we're very excited about it. It was very big news. And I'll just remind you that those performance bonds are very important to school districts. And we have actually hired an attorney who will pursue those funds for us. And this was the first step, and it's a major step because, as I think you know from earlier talks that you've had, or the talk we had at the Dutchess County School Boards Association, the excavation is kind of the first stumbling block. And if you can't get past that, you can't get some of the other things done. So we're very excited. This was an important meeting today. It was rather impromptu, but we wanted to get that done so we could move along. The next slide are the 5 members of the public who are running for the 3 BOCES seats. I know you'll recognize a couple of these. The 3 in the middle are the incumbents, but I'll just go through them in alphabetical order. Marie Johnson from Wappingers. Hello, Marie. Richard Keller Coffey, who is our current board member from Weebatuck. Ed McCormick is from Arlington. Rob Rubin, who is currently seated on our board. Hey, Rob. And Karen Smythe, who represents the Red Hook area. So those are the 5, and what you'll do, and Alberta knows this already, she'll just take a simple vote on the 5 people, and the 3 top vote getters are sent to Nancy. And then based on the votes from across the county, the 3 top vote getters win. Okay? So
Certainly here to answer any questions you have now. And I like to always say that if something comes up after the meeting, or if you think of something later, here's my email address. Feel free to shoot me an email, give me a call. But once again, thank you very much for your time tonight.
And also, certainly, the superintendents in Dutchess County meet every Wednesday. So if you have a question and you want Dwight to send it my way, you can certainly do that, my way or Matt's way. Just mention it to Dwight, he'll get to us, and we'll get back to you. And I think we've done some of that recently. So what questions do you have for us?
Questions? Eddie Slashauer?
Sorry, dropped my pen.
That's all right.
I have several questions. They'll kind of split between Dr. Hooley and Mr. Metzger. I'll go with Mr. Metzger first. If you wouldn't mind just giving a little clearer explanation with regards to the rated weight for daily attendance and how that formula is calculated, because based on what was in your presentation at your April 1st meeting, which unfortunately that video is not up yet, so you may have addressed this in that particular meeting or not. So what I'm trying to get a clearer understanding is how that is calculated for the rate that the district has to pay, considering all the other districts are paying less with a slight increase to Pine Plains. And although it's not a significant increase of $38,000, it is the largest increase out of any of the school districts, because other than Pine Plains with a $3,800 increase, everyone else has a reduction in their fee for this year. So on the RWADA, there's 11,826, which then becomes a percentage of county total RWADA, the new rate that you indicate for 27.99, almost 28%.
Mm-hmm.
Where does this 11,826 come from, if that's the rated weight for daily attendance?
What happens each year at the school districts is when they submit their financial information and their attendance to the state, that information is gathered, and it's computed at the state level, and it's not a straight attendance number. That weighted is very important. I believe the weight gives a higher percentage to your secondary high school students, as opposed to just simply taking your attendance in the district. And it's really
is that based on the actual enrollment? I mean, if everybody shows up every day, We don't
Right.
have 11,826 students
Right.
coming to school either through our 15 schools and attending BOCES.
All right, so let
And then
me,
there's a slight 409, increase, but we're at, 10,000,
Right.
460 students.
so
in
that's
the
where the
actual
weighting comes
enrollment.
in. So specifically, when you have special education students, they're weighted more heavily than an elementary student. Similarly, as Matt pointed out, secondary students are weighted more than elementary. And let me just be very clear.
So one
This is
student
all-
theoretically could be 1.5,
Exactly,
uh,
exactly right.
and that's how
And-
the state calculates that?
That's
Right.
right. And it is all done by the state. We do none of these calculations. We just go to the state, grab those numbers and put them in this chart for all the school districts. And because your number has increased or stayed flat as the rest of the county has declined, your proportional rate of the entire budget is why your number is higher.
Right.
All right, well, it looks like I'll have a topic for my legislative action committee for the state for next year as a possible item to present.
Okay,
The thing to remember is that Arwada is important to you because it also talks to your aid. So on that side, you get more aid.
Well,
from
that's the positive, right?
That's right.
Right. Okay. So just let me just thank you. That obviously is a much clearer understanding with that particular explanation. So I thank you for that. And then just a couple quick things on the capital project. Obviously, we're not going to be in the new space come September, so we're going to have additional rent that has to be paid. Where is that additional rent coming from that wasn't originally anticipated last year? And obviously due to the circumstances with the general contractor or the subcontractor.
Right. So if you'll go to the slide where Matt showed the administrative and capital budgets, it's actually slide number 6. You will see that routinely to manage our roofs and plumbing and heating systems, school districts kick in
Contribute
about
600,000.
Right. And so this year, we are offsetting that 600 to 150,000 in order to manage the increased cost of rental. So Matt has been very careful about those numbers so that your budget is off that, because you're absolutely right. We're going to have those costs for rental. Now, let's be very, very clear. The performance bond ultimately will reimburse for any costs that led to any delay costs that
Okay.
result, which would include the cost for our attorney, it would include the cost for the rental, etc. But we know that you live within your annual budget. So what Matt did was he said, look, the reasonable and fair thing to do is to reduce the money we take in for our capital maintenance to offset the cost so that we can pay the rental costs. And that's how we tried to do that.
Okay, so then just a back step and a forward step on that. What normally is Wappinger's percentage contribution to the 600,000 that's normally collected from all the school districts under normal circumstances for upkeep and maintenance?
It will be this. It will be the same as the admin. We're using the Arwada figure again for that. So
Same
the
rate.
Same percentage of 29%.
29%.
So approximately $168,000.
Thank you. Okay, so now moving forward in a new building, which hopefully less maintenance and whatever, is there any conversation or discussion whether that yearly contribution would change, or because it's tied to the Arwada, which is again set by the state and which we're obligated to pay, does that same percentage follow along, or would that
Well,
change
Yeah,
Right.
at all because we have a new facility?
the percentage will stay the same. What will happen though is that rent will just about drop off because we'll no longer be renting the alternative high school's location. We will probably still have a few rents to some of the school districts, but they're going to be minimal in compared to that amount. I would just estimate probably maybe $100,000 a year, possibly less. So that
Divided by
million,
right, divided by all the districts, so.
correct,
obviously-
correct. And
But the
you'll still have
maintenance-
your 29% of that share, but that total amount we'll need to collect will drop substantially.
Substantially, okay.
But
And
to
then
be
just one,
clear, just to be clear, the maintenance, we still have a lot of old buildings that we maintain.
no, I understand that, but ideally, there would be some cost savings somewhere, with the new facility, like anything else.
That's correct.
Okay, so just one last question, Dr. Hooley, and then I'll pass it on to some other trustees if they have questions. Has BOCES established a capital improvement committee to oversee this particular project made up of, I don't know, board members, administrators, or anything to
Yeah.
participate in overseeing the project?
We do, and included in that is a business official from the, so we have, actually Rob is on that. We have 2 board members. We have the business official from Millbrook, and we have the facilities person from, help me out here, is it right?
Hyde Park, I believe.
Right, well, he's a board member at Hyde Park, but
Okay,
he's. the
then
facilities
Red Hook then,
person at
Red Hook.
So he
Yep.
wears a couple of hats, and he's terrific.
So you
Yeah.
guys, I guess, I'm assuming also with the architects, and you're having monthly meetings and going through everything.
Absolutely. And we,
Okay.
that was a little more intense at the outset as we were doing the planning and doing that. Right now, and as you know, because of the winter and because of our excavation issues, they have not met. But I believe, Matt, we have one scheduled in the next week or 2, right? So they meet pretty regularly.
Right. I mean, it might be a good, again, I don't know what the process with BOCES. I mean, we live stream our capital meetings. I don't know if that's beneficial, or at least tape them. So school districts, other boards can at least, view it to see exactly what's going on. Because, look, things happen in construction, and I know that from a prior career with a lot of development things and whatnot. But, this kind of thing kind of hit us, especially for this district, since, we're paying a majority of this project. So it was a little bit concerning to hear the news of what transpired, and, not trying to blame anybody because things happen, but at the same time, probably would have liked to have known about this a lot sooner than we did. So that's just my personal opinion. So hopefully the ship has been fixed, and, we'll have a new facility come the fall. So I thank you for coming tonight and answering my questions. Thank you.
And thank you for your suggestions and comments.
I have a
Mr.
question.
Mulia, you're over time.
Are there any
Did
other
you,
questions?
you want an extension?
Question,
I move
Yeah, I have
to
a
make it
question.
10 more minutes.
Mr. Morgan?
Second,
Okay, all those in favor of 10 more minutes?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, who's got a question?
Yeah, I had a question. This is Keith Odoms.
Yeah, Keith, go ahead.
Thanks for the presentation. And during the presentation, you show a 5-year outlook. Could you give us some information or any expectations on thereafter 21, 22? The last price we saw was like 11.7 per year. Is there any indication how much would it be? Yeah, like the next 5 years after?
Yeah, I think you're referring to the Arwada figures, and I'm not sure what the projections look like on that. I don't know when that information goes up to state ed.
Yeah, and we don't actually make those projections. Those come straight from state ed. You're talking about the Arwada chart.
Yes.
Yeah. That comes from state ed.
Yeah, I know you had mentioned that. I didn't know if you had any type of just estimate. I know sometimes when you're looking at these numbers, you have a perception of what you're going to be charging each school district. Like Trustee Sloshower said that, Wappingers is paying the pretty much the max out of all the other school districts.
I have a question, maybe it's a dumb question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Suppose none of our students came to BOCES. Will we still be responsible paying the majority of the budget?
Well, it's a great question. You would, because you are a member of the BOCES, but what you wouldn't get is the $3 million that you get back in, as Matt pointed out, you get back BOCES aid, you get back surplus, And that amounts to wasn't it $3 million, Matt? 300 million, $3 million?
Wappingers would be responsible for the administrative piece, but all the other programs coasters, if you didn't partake in that, then you would have no expense going to those.
But your biggest chunk isn't the administrative piece, correct?
No,
Special ed.
it's like an $80 million budget, and the administrative piece is really about 7 million of it. So, when you talk about special ed and some of the other programs, that's really where the heart of the finances are. But
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Marie, you had a question, Marie? Did you have a question?
I was gonna s-
Well, quickly, I was just gonna say, thank you, because I do know some that are in the beta program. I have personal knowledge, and you guys have done amazing work with the students that I happen to know in it. And from what I understand is it doesn't matter. The administrative piece, we are bound by state law to pay our portion of it, no matter if we have kids going or not. And that's just a matter of how it is.
But what bothers me is
That's
that
it.
we do not have the most number of students in your programs. There are two districts which have most students participated in those programs, yet we are the biggest contributor. So why is it that the cost is spread based on the number of students that you have in the program?
And I think, I got to think that legally they started using Arwada because they didn't want boards to just arbitrarily decide how much components contribute. So I think that's why the law said you're going to use the Arwada. That way it's unbiased, so to speak.
Well, it looks like Mr. Schlosshauer, we have some letters to write.
Yeah, but that still doesn't tell us the amount of money that we're charged. That's still not a explanation.
To some extent, John, Mr. Morgan?
Thank you, Mr. Lumi. And this actually goes in hand with the comment that you just made. On slide 11, you talked about 51 special ed and alternative ed students and 86 CTI students. What are the totals across the Duchess BOCES program that Wappinger's 51 students are a subset of?
Well, I don't have that right here at my hand. We can probably get that to you, and I can just send that to Dwight or to Alberta and get it to you. These are pretty big numbers. I
We
mean,
have those numbers.
you and Arlington are obviously the largest school districts. So in terms of special education, I think your numbers outpace others. I'm not exactly sure that that's
We're at third in the list. I think that those particular numbers were given to us by our superintendent.
okay.
We requested it, and I believe we're in total.
John?
We are third. I think
Okay.
Arlington's first. I don't know who's second. I forgot who's second. We're third.
Okay, but
John?
then on a Thursday night, you're excused for not knowing that off the top of your head. But if you could supply the most recent numbers, I would appreciate that.
Sure.
The second point I just wanted to raise, I know during the pandemic, your technology training group was a resource to many, probably all, but I'll say many of the component school districts on ways to use Zoom and different technology platforms, Google Classroom, so on and so forth, that were very, very valuable and provided a great return under the circumstances. Given that we as a board and a community anticipate mental health of our student population being something that's going to be of great concern to us going forward, what can we do, we collectively, the 13 districts, you, your team, your successor, what can we do collectively to most efficiently and effectively help our students with mental health needs and concerns?
Thank you. This is certainly you're not the first person to raise that question. Not only do district superintendents raise it, but our own board members have said the same thing. And one of the things that we have done a lot of work with around the county and in BOCES is social emotional health. And some of the work that Cora has done in terms of circles. I know you guys have used some of this work at Orchard View to help kids talk about what's going on with them. Trauma-informed instruction is a big part of our professional development, and that will probably expand around the county, and there'll be calls for that. But we, in the next month or so, will be putting that together with input from the school superintendents, but our education resources, which is the professional development arm of the BOCES, has been working on that for some time. So we'll be making that available to you, and then school districts will choose what they want to use of ours and what they choose to do on their own or go to some other vendor for. But we are certainly aware that that's a need in this county for our kids as well as for yours.
Albert, how much time do we have left? 2 minutes. One last question. Mr. Rubin?
Not a question. Thank you, Mr. Lumia. But I think I think these are all great and salient points that have been spoken by everybody here tonight. And I think it's also, I would just like to say that it's important for the public to realize that just like in Wappingers, the Duchess BOCES operates within certain constraints as established by the state, well, the people in Albany. So that if it's viewed that there are certain inequities that are in that formula, that the concerns that people have should be directed to the state level, not to those of us on the ground who are just implementing the procedures that we are obligated to do so. Thank you.
You know, if I could just make one more comment, and I don't want to go over your time, but you know, the question about the numbers of your Arwada numbers is kind of appropriate to Mr. Morgan's point. So if we're providing services to teachers and staff, you actually have more seats at the table with any work that we would do for, let's say, social emotional health and things like that, because you are the largest component, and those you may want to send 6 administrators instead of just 3, like a smaller district. So all of that comes without question because it's based on the Arwada and the size. I mean, that's not true in every single case, but it's pretty true that if we're running a workshop on APPR, for example, and you have 10 principals and somebody else has 3, we're not going to say you can only bring 3. You bring your 10, they bring their 3, and we provide those services to everybody because that's the way the work is done.
With that being said, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Hooley and Mr. Metzger, for your presentation. Thank you very much.
Have a
great night.
We appreciate your time.
Uh, 4.01, recognition comments by Board of Education members. Does anyone want to make any comments regarding anything? Well, I'll make some comments then. Nobody else? Okay, on behalf of the Board of Education, I want to congratulate Sahana Sampath, a 6th grade student at Evans Elementary, will be competing in the Scripps National Spelling Bee this summer, representing upstate New York region. We wish you great success. Also, I would like to congratulate the Future Farmers of America of John Jay. What happened here? Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Of John Jay, who went to the sub-states and took 1st, 2nd, and 4th in the senior Creed speaking in agricultural issues. The 1st, 2nd place advance to the states. Congratulations to the robotics team at John Jay, in particular to Millie Baguvu for taking 1st place in the Connect Award, to Warren Wang and Millie Baguvu, and Ashish Thomas for taking 3rd place in the category Think Award. And congratulations to Catherine Tan and Sanjay Natasan, 2 John Jay National Honor Society students on their academic scholarship. Also, before I forget, and so far as the robotics team, congratulations to Darren Way for his third place finish into Collins Aerospace Award. So, and with that being said, I'll throw one last comment.
Oh, wait, John, I forgot one thing. I should have brought this up. May I?
Well, let me finish first, then you can, all
I'm
right?
sorry. I thought you were done. My apologies.
And last but not least, congratulations to the Royce Ketchum football team for their first victory in football. And with that being said, Robbie, it's all yours.
Oh, I just saw on Facebook that our district once again won a national music recognition. I forget it. The name escapes me right now. We won it in years past. And congratulations to them as well, to the music department.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, with that being said, 4.02.
Mr. Mumia?
I'm sorry. Yes, John. John?
Apology accepted. I've got one thing that I want to mention, but two to piggyback on comments that you made. I believe in my short time on the board, this is the third time that Catherine Tam's name has been specifically mentioned during board meetings. Congratulations to her, athletically, musically, and academically. Also, later on this year, when the finals of the Scripps Spelling Bee are on one of the ESPN networks and our residents are flipping through, keep in mind that there's a Wappinger student that may be part of that. And third, earlier this evening, I had the pleasure of attending a modified football game at the Royce Ketchum Field. Principal Thompson and Principal Shukat were there. They were cordial to each other during the rivalry game. No official word on whether there was a side bet or not. I did get texted the final score from my nephew, who unfortunately was on the losing team. But I was happy to see him play and to see all of our athletes and coaches, to the very best of my ability, observing the Section 1 safety guidelines while participating in the event. Thank you for the time.
Are there any other comments by any board member? Seeing none, 4.02 public comments on agenda items. A total of 30 minutes at the beginning of each board meeting set aside to allow for public comments on agenda items only. Individual comments on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes and are welcomed. Based on the open meeting law and Borough Policy 1230, debate or dialogue with board members is not allowed during this meeting. Compliments or complaints about student discipline, specific student issues, or personnel must not be addressed during public comments. Comments on questions submitted through the use of public comment forum will be sent to the appropriate staff member who will provide a response on the district public comment response webpage. If you wish to address items related to a school district that are not on tonight's agenda, another comment period is provided at the end of the meeting for that purpose. In the interest of civility and respect for different points of view, clapping, booing, or any disturbance or disruption are permitted. At this time, comments related to agenda items are welcome. Please state your name and the agenda items you're speaking on. Alberta, it's all yours.
Yes, we have a comment submitted by Sherry McNamara. She writes, can someone please tell me why Wappingers is contracting out the bus company Orange County Transit? I work for Wappingers and have lived in Wappinger School District for over 50 years and have never seen full-size buses being contracted out. I have two concerns. First, as an employee, I see more bus drivers being deemed to cleaning schools while bus runs are being contracted out. Second, as a taxpayer, what is going to happen to all of these union jobs the bus drivers currently have? Is Wappingers looking to dispose of these union jobs? How much money is Wappingers saving to contract out buses? Thank you. And that's all the comments I have.
Thank you very much. 5.01, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Bunk, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, President Lumia, Vice President Odums, members of the Board of Education, and members of the Wappingers community. First of all, I would like to thank all of the board members who gave recognition to various individuals within our district who have demonstrated tremendous success and achievement. Congratulations again to all of those that were mentioned by our board members. Trustee Rubin, you had talked about the music award. It's actually the Best Communities Music Award for music education for 2021, in which you're absolutely right. The Wappinger Central School District was recognized by the National Association of Music. And the award recognizes the outstanding efforts by teachers, administrators, parents, students, and community leaders who value and who make music education part of a well-rounded curriculum. We were identified as being exhibiting an extremely high commitment. So again, congratulations to Director King, all of our music education staff, all of our students, all of our advisors that are involved in our musical programs. Again, we're very proud of you and the job that you've done. And of course, the tremendously talented students. And we know that it's been a difficult year this year with the pandemic. We are now very, very pleased that we're able to begin to provide some opportunities that based on the pandemic that we were not able to provide before, which leads me into my next comment. As you may be aware, we continue to expand our extracurricular activities, our athletic events. Obviously, we realize how important these are to our students, and we want to make sure that they're provided with opportunities to participate in such activities. One of the things that you'll notice from our educational update that went out earlier today, the secondary school schedule has been lengthened by approximately about 40 minutes. And from this point on, starting on Monday, if you have students that are staying after school for extracurricular activities or athletics, they will be able to remain in the building because there won't be a significant period of time by the time school ends and when their activities start. So again, we are very, very pleased and proud to be able to provide these much needed activities. And with that, I think we'll move on now to the presentation, the budget presentation. This presentation is going to be very similar to the presentation that was presented at the last board meeting. And again, I must thank the Chief Financial Officer, Assistant Superintendent Kristen Crandall, for all of her work on this budget. As you know, that has been a very, very fluid budgetary process. It has been a difficult budgetary process. And we were made aware that the state budget was approved and we're given some preliminary information yesterday by the State Education Department as to where we expect to be this upcoming budget year. There still are some details that we need to finalize at this point. But all in all, we are pleased in the fact that this budget will allow us to maintain the current services and programs that we provide to our students, as well as address some of the district and board goals, which obviously express concerns with the not only the academic well-being of our students, but also the social and emotional well-being of our students. As you will see later on, this budget recommends 6 additional positions be provided in mental health areas. It also continues to have our class size remain where it is. We need more adults working with fewer students, again, to assess how they're doing socially, how they're doing emotionally, and when necessary, provide them with the proper interventions that they need. In addition to that, I continue to see and recommend opportunities for academic intervention services within our schools K-12. Obviously, there's been some learning loss that has occurred during this pandemic, and it's our responsibility to provide our students with what they need to get them where we want them to be, not only academically, but also socially and emotionally. So with that, we'll take a look at the presentation. So this is the revised superintendent's recommended budget. Obviously, today is April the 8th of 2021. So if we can move on with the presentation.
Next.
Very good. Obviously, I will be presenting along with our Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Business Development, Ms. Kristen Crandall, also our Chief Financial Officer. There you see the members of the Board of Education. And again, I'd like to thank them for supporting this budget and identifying these needs and committing to doing what's best for our students as we move forward in a most challenging and difficult time. You see the members of the Senior Staff Administration. We have Mr. Lokema, Assistant Superintendent for Compliance and Information Systems, Dr. Michelle Cardwell, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. I mentioned Ms. Crandall, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Business Development, Mr. Richard Zipp, our Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services and Accessible Education, Renee Harris, our Director of Human Resources, and Ronald Gross, our Director of Facilities and Operations. And of course, the glue that keeps all of this together, our District Clerk and Secretary to the Superintendent, Ms. Alberta Pedro. So this is a total team effort, what you see in front of you today. And not only has this included input from the members of the Board of Education, members of the senior staff, members of the building administration, it has also included suggestions and recommendations from our community, from our parents, from our students. Again, we've been through some challenging times. We will get through this. We will need to get through this together. So that's how we will move forward. We will move forward together. So if we can move on to the next slide, thank you. So as I mentioned before, a couple nights ago, the district received word that there was an approved 2021-2022 New York State budget. So what does this mean? Well, according to the summary that we have received from the New York State School Boards Association, foundation aid is increased for all of the districts, along with the plan to fully fund this revenue source. There was a rejection of the governor's proposed local district funding adjustment state aid cut. There was a rejection of the governor's proposal to consolidate and eliminate expense-based aids into a new service aid category. There was an expansion of the governor's proposal to aid costs associated with the delivery of student meals and instructional materials in the spring of 2020 to also include transportation. And there was an allocation of the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA stimulus funds to be used over the years. So again, we have talked about the goal, and the goal is maintain our current educational program, supporting the academic enrichment activities that we obviously provide, along with those critical extracurricular activities, and have state-of-the-art professional development for our staff and best teaching pedagogies and practices. Again, especially during a pandemic. I foresee a need moving forward to have a major emphasis on differentiated instruction. Clearly, the gap in our classrooms is going to be even wider than it's been before. And it's going to be very important for our staff to be able to differentiate the instruction so that students of varying different learning levels understand the material and are able to excel. That's going to take time. That's going to take getting to know those students, staying with them, working with their families, and giving them the additional support necessary that they need to be successful. And we need to do that for each and every student within our school district. We can move on to the next slide, please. So again, what does it mean for the Wappinger Central School District? Well, our foundation aid increased just under $6 million. That's a good thing. We had previous concerns regarding a mid-year budgetary reduction, which could have been up to $10 million. That has been eliminated, thankfully. The governor's proposal to consolidate reimbursable aids has been removed from this budget. So expense-driven aids such as BOCES, transportation, library materials, and in other areas will continue to exist. A budget aid line item for universal pre-kindergarten of over $1 million was added. We do not operate a universal pre-kindergarten, so it has been removed from the aid runs calculated total. Again, you know, we have to look at the specific details of what we get. And again, I'd like to thank Assistant Superintendent Crandall for continuing to comb through the voluminous information that has been given to us through New York State within the past couple of days. And then we have the Coronavirus Rescue and Relief Appropriations Act, CRRSA, just over $10 million. And then we have the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, of an additional $8.6 million. Those are included as a separate budget line item. One of the other things that's important to say is that many of these are one-time federal funding sources that will be coded and reported as special aid grant dollars. Again, there'll be more information coming on this. We continue to research this. But again, there may be some more specific regulations and timeframes that will be tied to some of this money. We don't know that yet. We will at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. We can move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so where are we? We're right where we were a couple weeks ago. The 21-22 revised proposed budget, we again remain within the tax cap. $403,547,000. Again, if we take a look at the levy to levy increase, we're still at 2.49%. That's under the tax cap. We have a budget to budget increase of 4.64. And again, I spoke to some of this. I've gone over this with the board and have done it in a prior presentation. But again, what are some of the things that we're doing? We talked about the 6 positions to support social and emotional health for our students. We talked about the local live streaming for each of our high schools to support arts and athletics. We've been doing things virtually, or there's been a limit on the amount of attendees that can come to certain functions or events. These are critical. People should be able to see them. We had a system where we were only able to live stream one event at a time, no longer. Now we're going to be able to do multiple events, and it's going to be done through local live. And again, I think this is great for our community and for our students. Forecast 5 to support data analysis to ensure equity and access for all of our students. Again, and it's BOCES aidable as local live is. Again, Forecast 5 is going to help give us the information that we need to be able to move forward in terms of, again, making sure that we personalize the educational experience for each and every one of our students. We're also looking at a reinstatement of a carpenter position in facilities and operations. There's a number of items that are in need of repair, as you can imagine, in a district with 15 buildings, with some buildings that are many, 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 many years old. And fortunately, we have people that are very skilled in that area within our district working for us. And when we have an opportunity to have someone within our district do that type of work, we certainly look to that. And again, Director Broas has indicated to me, and I agree, having looked at some of the work that our carpenters have done, and not only our carpenters, but everyone in our facilities and operations department has just done an exceptional job. Increased instructional supplies at building levels. It will be nice to have more supplies than we've had in the past. We virtually haven't had many supplies in the past. And again, we talked about the importance of that professional development to focus on cultural responsiveness and social and emotional learning, as well as replenishing past year budget reductions. So we're confident that with those items in this budget, again, that these are significant additions, these are necessary additions. And in addition to these items, we're talking about, again, maintaining the programs and services that our students and our community has come to depend on and expect. And I'm very, very pleased that we're at that point here. So if we could move on. So let's take a look at the budget and the levy history. So if you take a look at the budget to budget and you take a look at the levy to levy numbers, you will see that this year's proposed budget is a budget to budget increase of 4.64%. You will see that the levy to levy increase is 2.49%. Let's look at that important levy to levy tax increase. If you take a look at the last 4 years, you will see that this increase is the second lowest increase that we have proposed in the last 4 years, which again, I'm very, very proud of, because this budget once again addresses the needs and the concerns that we have within our community coming out of a pandemic. And it is also very, very fiscally responsible. I thought that was important to point out. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So again, revenue sources, $256,403 and some change. Where does it come from? The proposed tax levy 70.8%. Proposed New York State aid, 26.94%. Other revenue, 1.51%. Fund balance, 1.46%. Next slide. Expenses by type. I've said it before, we're a people business. Our job is to help educate people, and people need to help educate people. So 51.45% of our budget is salaries. Obviously, along with that, our benefits, 33.8%. Next, we have BOCES, 7.45%. We have contractual obligations at 6.44%. Supplies, 1.31. Textbooks, 0.21, and equipment, 0.05%. Expenses by category, again, there's the number, $256,403 and some change. Where does the money go? Again, we're here to educate students. 53.57% of our expenses are in instruction. 33.08 is undistributed. 7.57 goes to general support. Transportation is 5.78.
Dr. Bonk, may I jump in for one moment?
Absolutely, Ms. Crandall, go right ahead.
Sure, there's just two things before Dr. Bonk gets to the last slide that I just want to reinforce. In the presentation a couple of weeks ago, we had indicated that we would be utilizing some of that federal funding to offset our budget. We're very happy to report that that no longer will be needed. And as Dr. Bonk had indicated through the presentation, those federal funding pieces are now, while still unknown, but now an option to the district in their totality of close to $18 million. So we're very excited about that. And the second piece that I just wanted to highlight is that this budget is based on actual needs. So if there's variations in budgetary lines from one year to the next, it's based on historical analysis and review. So any of those lines that you may see, there is historical data to support it. I know there was a question from a board member with regard to this, and we will answer that for you in detail. But this budget is based on actuals, just like the BOCES is based on the initial service requests and the final service requests as were spoken of this evening. I just wanted to reiterate that you know, these numbers are our best estimates if we don't have real actual data to be able to support what the expenses would be in the coming school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crandall. Well said. And we move to the final slide. So where do we go from here? Obviously, continue to send your questions, comments, and feedback to us. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're thinking. budget@wcsdny.org. Presentations and reports will continue to be posted to the Board of Education section of our website. Frequently asked questions, we'll post them within 2 business days. The Board of Education approval of the 21-22 budget will be at our next board meeting, which will be on April the 19th. We continue with our monthly updates to the Board of Education with the 2021 financial outcomes. We continue with our weekly educational updates to the Wappinger Central School District learning community. Our Wappinger Central School District Legislative Action Committee board approved goal for continued advocacy not to lose any state funding. And let me say to our Legislative Action Committee, fantastic job. You certainly did a job well done, and we're very, very thankful to your efforts as well as all of the individuals who advocated on behalf of our students. And we're going to continue the course, make sure that we maintain a safe learning environment through all of our students through this pandemic and beyond. And again, in closing, we will get through this, as difficult as it's been, as challenging as it's been. We will get through this if we work together, if we treat each other with dignity and respect, and we listen to each other, and we accept people's thoughts, their views, and their perspectives. We need to hear them, because that's how we make decisions as to what is the proper course of action moving forward. What is it that the community values? What is it that the community wants to see? What is it that the students value? What is it that they want to see? And that's all reflected in this budget. And that's part of the goal. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I open it up to the Board of Education for any comments or questions that you may have. Thank you.
Are there Eddie?
I just had one, so much of a question, just a clarity for Ms. Crandall. The 1.46 of fund balance that was presented in the pie chart, just for community knowledge, what does that percentage equate to as a dollar amount for contributing to the budget? If you know offhand.
$3,750,000. Yep, $3,750,000.
Okay.
That is the amount that we've attempted to maintain. We have maintained over the last several years. That's basically we automatically apply that to the levy. So basically their levy is reduced by that $3.7 million.
Thank you. And thank you for the explanation. You probably knew I was going to ask you to do that. So thanks.
Question? Any other questions? Marie?
John?
Actually, I want to, shocking after last year, me being so horrible with 50,000 questions. Great job, guys. I would like to say that I spent a lot of time looking at the numbers, and yeah, some of them have gone up, and I believe most of it is due to pandemic costs, as we'll be able to understand going forward. This has been a difficult budget, I know, going forward. But I want to thank Ms. Crandall and Dr. Bonk for all of their hard work on this budget. And I'm sure some of the line items that I'll out myself. Yes, I was the board member, sent in a bunch of line item questions that Ms. Crandall answer, as she always does. And I'm sure some of the one of them was a transportation, which somebody had sent in. I'm sure that's something that will be maybe elaborating on to the community coming up.
Thank you, Marie. Rob, I think you had a question?
Yes, sir. I also would like to just say that Dr. Bach, you and the staff, the central office staff, deserve to be patted on the back for this. This was put together. It involved a lot of uncertainties and a lot of hard work. And I think the community will appreciate that you've listened to them and that you put this budget together on their behalf. Thank you.
Are there any other comments for any board member? Peggy?
Just for the community's enlightenment, since we see that we got almost 6 million extra dollars in state aid that we were not anticipating, how did that work out in the final budget? Did that affect the fund balance? Did it affect programs? Did it affect the tax levy?
So, Dr. Bonk, I can jump in on this. In the previous presentations, we had discussed that we were going to use a portion of the CRRSA funding, that Corona Rescue and Relief. We were going to use about 57% to balance our budget. Because the additional funds came in and they are truly New York State, they are not federal grants, we will no longer need to utilize any of that federal money to balance our budget. Therefore, that $18 million in its total between those two funding sources from the federal government, those two grants, will be available to the district. They are nowhere in the general fund budget, nor should they be. So we are very lucky that that additional aid came in. We were able to offset that, and we only had to make a minor change of about $57,000 in order to be able to balance back out to the maximum allowable budget based on the levy that's within the tax cap. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? Any other comments by anyone? Seeing none, thank you, Dr. Bunk and Christian, for a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
6.01 consent agenda resolution. Are there any items on the agenda that people want to remove? Seeing none. Keith? Keith? The resolution? Keith?
You're muted, Keith.
I'm sorry. Here we go.
You have to read the resolution.
Yep. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the following consent agenda items as stated. 6.02, 6.03, 6.04, 6.05, 6.06, 6.07, 6.08, 6.09, and 6.10.
Motion,
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second,
Kellen and Rob Rubin, second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. 7.01, acceptance of the.
President Lumia,
Yes,
if I could just make a comment in regards to the approval of staff.
you mean Dr. Saracino?
Dr. Saracino, yes.
Go ahead, go right ahead.
So I am very, very proud to announce that Dr. Saracino will be joining us as an Assistant Director of Special Education. And we have been talking for weeks about how critical the social and emotional health of our students is as we move forward. We are very fortunate that we were able to find an exceptional candidate in Dr. Saracino, who will be joining us from the Danbury Public School District with a doctoral degree in psychology and a wealth of experience in dealing with socially and emotionally students who have specific needs. And she's got some real innovative programs, and we're looking forward to utilizing her tremendously as we move forward. So again, congratulations, Dr. Saracino.
Very good, Dr. Bunk. You pronounced his name exceptionally well.
Her.
Only
Her
with your,
name, not
only
his.
with your help.
Morning.
Only with your help, President Lumia.
Please, John Morgan.
I just wanted to comment in particular, you know, having just met Dr. Saracino, you know, this evening via video. So I really can't speak to, you know, her qualifications, although I was impressed with them the way that Dr. Bonk was just able to. But the school district that she comes from is one that does have substantial mental health issues just based on the numbers and cases and referrals. I think that experience coming to our district will serve us all very well. So I just wanted to echo what Dr. Bonk said. Thank you for the time.
Any other comments? Seeing none. 7.01, acceptance of the 2021 New York State Annual Fire Safety Inspection Report. Keith.
Whereas a New York State Code Enforcement Officer from Bruce, Birmingham and Associates has completed the 2021 New York State Annual Fire Safety Inspections of the Wapager Central School District's buildings on January 13, 2021. And whereas Bruce Bingham and Associates has identified non-conformance items in some of the district buildings, whereas the Wapager Central School District immediately addressed these items and they are no outstanding non-conformance items at this time. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby accepts the Wapager Central School District Fire Safety Inspection Report and directs the district clerk to publish the required notice of report availability in its official newspapers pursuant to Education Law, Section 807-A, 5B, and C.
Motion?
So moved.
Peggy, second.
Second,
Mr. Rubin. John Morgan.
A quick question, and Dr. Bonk, if I'm putting you on the spot, because this is just like it's my first time doing this. If this is your first time in this role, I apologize. But is Bruce Bingham and Associates the contractor that that the district has used in the past.
Yeah, Pat.
I do
Seeing
not,
some-
I do not know that, but I can tell you that the name sounds familiar. But what I will do is I will follow up with Director Brois, and as soon as I get that information, I will send it to you, Trustee Morgan.
Okay,
Eddie,
thank you. Just
Eddie.
because if, I'm sorry, beg your pardon, John?
Eddie, you have a good memory, so do you recall that particular name per chance?
You're muted, Eddie. But yes, I remember.
The
it
name
last
rings a
week. It
bell.
looks like I was confirming it.
Yeah, I caught Alberta just verified that we've used them before. All right, thank you.
Thank you for the thumbs up. I was just curious because, you know, some of the items, if they're the same contractor that did this for the district within the past year or so, I doubt that at several schools, somebody went around and said, hey, we should move these fire extinguishers so that they're less accessible and less prominent. So I'm just wondering why an observant, you know, one of the observations that we got was something that wasn't spotted a year ago. I'm sorry for belaboring the issue, but with regard to safety, it just seemed odd if this is the same contractor that we use.
Jim? Spencer?
I'd just like to pick up where John left off. My comment was, I'm really glad that we're in compliance and there are no non-conformance items outstanding. But there seems to have been a common theme throughout a lot of the schools, window obstructions and the improper use of extension cords. I'm wondering if Dwight and or Ron could just, I don't know, put something out to remind, you know, the administrators of each building that we shouldn't wait for an annual inspection. We should be constantly looking to make sure that our kids are in a safe environment.
Trustee Spencer, I agree with you 100%. It will be done. Thank you.
Any other comments? Linda?
Yeah, I just want to speak to that, having been a classroom teacher. You know, a lot of classrooms were built, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, before we had to have classroom libraries and manipulatives for mathematics. You know, maybe there was an anthology or a math book. So, you know, what ends up happening is that you've got all these new bookshelves and you've got, you know, shelves that have boxes in them for manipulatives, and there are these big windows. So it's almost impossible, you know, to be able to have all the supplies in the classroom without blocking windows. And the same thing has to do with the electrical cords, is that, you know, the buildings were not really built for smart boards and overhead projectors and document cameras. So, you know, what ends up happening is that you've got these cords that are running underneath the rugs that the kids sit on. And so, you know, the infrastructure of the buildings is not really suited to the new classroom design or the new requirements of a classroom. So it's just something, you know, to be understood about the situation.
I think, if I make a comment, I think that Mr. Bros is well aware of all those problems, and if there are any problems, he definitely will address them immediately. Peggy?
Yes, I would like to add to what Ms. Rappaport just said. One of the problems is that making it perhaps worse is that some of the renovations in the schools, I'm thinking of Evans as an example, although it was necessary for putting in new plumbing and so forth, took away some of the storage space that we used to have up high. Now, high storage space was not the best place for it, but at least it was some kind of storage space. So if you weren't doing that particular unit, you could move them up and down. But I think there's a real need for more storage space in a lot of the elementary classrooms so that we can put the classroom libraries and the manipulables where they're accessible. And also to perhaps if next time we have some capital projects for the Capital Improvement Committee to consider, about doing something about the electrical outlets and the way in which we can provide safe use of equipment without breaking the fire laws.
Again, I believe that all safety procedures are being followed. And if they weren't followed, Mr. Bros and the superintendent will be right on top of it.
The issues will,
Does not give the impression that things are.
the issues that were cited will be addressed. No question about it.
John, Mr. Morgan?
Just to wrap this up, not only, Dr. Bonk, will they be cited, but the memo and report clearly says that they were next to immediately rectified, just so that everybody's clear on that. My point in particular was about fire extinguisher location being cited, that why wasn't the same contractor as attuned to that a year ago? And with regard to Trustee Kellen and Trustee Rappaport's comments, given that my wife aspires someday to be a retired elementary school teacher, I know full well that when I get home and mention that I brought this topic up, she'll say, well, of course you need to keep the books on the, on top of the radiator in front of the windows. So I was leaving that, I'll say sort of alone, but the fire extinguisher issue just seemed curious to me.
If I can just interject, I just got a text from Director Brois, just to confirm, all of those items have been corrected. That being said, I agree with the concern that they shouldn't have appeared in the first place. And we need to do a better job of ensuring that that does not happen. And we will do that. So they're all points well made. You can't compromise with student safety and staff safety. It's very, very important that we make sure that what we're required to follow, that we follow.
All right, with that being said, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7.02, adoption of new textbook, environmental science for the AP Environmental Science course. Keith?
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve adoption of the textbook Environmental Science for the AP Environmental Science course, as indicated in the memo dated March 25th, 2021, from the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction to the Superintendent of Schools.
Motion?
So moved.
Discussion?
Second.
I'd like to make a comment. This particular textbook and this particular course should actually be offered not just to AP students, but to every high school student should be exposed to the thing. This book is exceptional. I looked at it and I wish I took this course. I wish there's a lot of knowledge in this book that every student in Wapaton could be exposed, not only AP students, but as well as non-AP students. Dr. Cardwell, you have a comment to make?
No, I don't have a comment. I'm just here in case anyone had any questions, but thank you for your support of the textbook, Mr. Lumia.
Eddie?
I think Mr. Lumia wants to have be part of one of the virtual classes, Ms. Cardwell, or Dr. Cardwell, sorry.
Excellent book.
That's one quick question.
Eddie, go ahead, Eddie.
How many, obviously for both schools, how many, for an AP class, but how many books are we ordering?
We only offer one section each building, so it will be approximately 30 books for each high school.
60 books. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Cardwell, I sincerely hope that this particular course can be somehow introduced not only to the AP students, but to every student in the Wapaton Central School District. I tell you, the knowledge in this textbook should be common, should be made aware. Every student should be made aware of the topics in this particular book.
All right, well, we are continuing to build our environmental science program, definitely through FFA that we have. We will continue our recruitments to get more students involved in all of our additional science programs. And hopefully that will also increase the number of students that are interested in environmental science. So whether we use that textbook or one similar to it, to provide our students with examples such as what's included in that book will be very beneficial to those students who are interested in that subject matter.
Thank you, Dr. Carwell. Excellent. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. All right. Next item is 7.04, no, excuse me, 7.03.
Great.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Professional development plan. Keith?
According to policy 9700, it is the responsibility of the professional learning team to submit any recommended revisions to the professional learning plan to the board by April 1st. The board will consider the recommendations at its first regular meeting thereafter. The board may accept or reject the recommendations of the team in whole or in part. The board may also request any additional information or data needed to evaluate the success of the program in achieving its objectives. Please let Dr.
Motion?
So moved.
Peggy, second. Is that necessary? All
No,
right.
there's no motion right now. This is a review of the plan for any comments. It will be presented to the board for a formal approval in June.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Caldwell's here to answer
Any
anything.
questions for Dr. Caldwell? Eddie? I can't.
You're muted.
Apologize. In the table of contents, Dr. Caldwell, just for training in school violence prevention and restorative practices in DASA, obviously this is something we've, been building on year after year to improve on. Just in regards to, and I don't know if Trustee Spencer can add any additional information in terms of, preventing school violence. Where exactly, in terms of training, are we looking at increasing training for administrators and staff to deal with particular student situations? What is just that particular item? How is that being addressed? Is it more of special ed? Or is it general ed, or just obviously the entire student body? Is there a specific focus for that? Just dealing with either the special ed kids and the conflict resolutions and all that stuff, and the anti-bullying? Is it more at overall through professional development, or is it more being handled in each building, but based on the makeup of the student body in each building? Are there different techniques and different styles, so to say?
So professional development is provided to various staff members in different forms regarding violence. We have our administrators participate in professional development throughout the course of the year. We have guest speakers, they attend workshops. We have our attorneys coming in and speaking with the administrators. We also have in our buildings, our administrators either facilitating or bringing in outside personnel when necessary to provide specific training, whether it's training for crisis situations or crisis students. We also provide professional development during Superintendent's Conference Day from some of our in-house experts on social emotional learning. We have de-escalation techniques that are being trained. So there's a variety of different professional developments going on based on what are the needs and expertise of the staff we have at each of our school sites.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to tag on to Eddie, and I think I'm going to have a conversation offline with Dr. Caldwell about maybe a training to help faculty, staff, and administrators identify our students that aren't really connected, because those are the higher risk individuals. So I'll have that conversation with Dr. Caldwell. Thanks, Eddie, for bringing it up.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's the kind of, brought you in on that to defer to your area of expertise.
Thank you in advance, Jim.
Any other comments or questions? All right.
Trustee Spencer, thank you again. We appreciate your input and look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. 8.01. Board member.
How about 7.04?
7.04, John.
You're right.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the Wapanger Central School District's 2021-2023 school-based planning and shared decision-making plan per Commissioners Regulation 100.11 as recommended by the District Shared Decision-Making Committee and the Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
thank you, Cal. Any discussion? Motion, all in favor?
Yes.
Unanimous. Now we have 8.01, unless I'm mistaken. Board members may-
No, you're on track now.
Is that okay, Marie? Am I?
Yeah,
Why
why don't we try that one?
Am I on the right page?
Yes.
8.01, board members may request additional agenda items, discussion items, or requests for information. Are there any addition to the agenda by any board member? Seeing none. 9.01, comments from the public. Alberta, it's all yours.
Okay, give me a quick second.
Take your time.
There's no comments, additional comments this evening.
Well, thank you very much, Alberta. That being said, I make a motion to adjourn our super duper meeting.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Take care and be well all. Thank you.